Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining, everybody. My name is Jeff, and today we are getting into the pours I'm most excited to put in my glass on this 4th of July weekend. And this year feels different. I mean, this isn't just another holiday weekend. This is the 250th birthday of the United States. I mean, 250 years. And I know we kind of live in these weird divisive times and there's a lot of noise going on. But on this 250th and this 4th of July, I really want to take a step back and to focus on the things that matter, really focus on big pictures. And for 250 years, I mean, this country has been an imperfect experiment. Complicated, inspiring, frustrating, resilient, ambitious, and we just keep moving forward, regardless of all this other stuff that goes on around us. So all I want to do on this 4th of July is really just celebrate the things that matter. Family, friends, cookouts, fireworks, freedom, and of course, with the channel, a whole lot of good whiskey. So thank you for joining, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. So I really debated the overall flow of this list, what I should concentrate on, whether I should really just focus on like heritage brands and their history that goes alongside the history of the United States. And then I just said, nah, screw it. Let's just talk about what I want to drink. So for this video, I wanted to pick essentially 5 bottles that felt right for both the moment and felt right for me being honest to everybody watching this. Not going to be the most expensive bottles, not going to be the rarest bottles. Some of these are bottles that you might even be able to grab and have ready for the holiday. All right. So let's just kick things off here. You know, I got a little whiskey bag here filled with the pours that I'm definitely going to be getting into here. Just a little red, white, and blue, right? Like, yeah, let's just get into all the Wellers. Yeah. Share with family and friends all weekend. All Wellers, nonstop, red, white, and blue. Just really lean into the taters. I'll be eating some French fries and some ketchup. All right, all jokes aside, let's get into the real list here. Number 5. The first one we're going to highlight here, we're going to start things off lower proof. You cannot go high octane all day on the 4th of July. That'd be a good way to lose some fingers in some firework accidents. So then what's the perfect one to start with? Evan Williams 1783 small batch, particularly these ones that are the American Hero Edition. I don't have it yet, but there is a 250th that I'll probably pick up over the course of this week as well. I just didn't have it in time for this video. But the American Hero Edition for this year is also 250th themed with the 90 proof version too. I'm not talking about the Evan Williams 250th that is like a single barrel and $45. I'm not talking about that one with the wax top. I'm talking about the 1783. And what's always made this series cool is that it is a small batch 1783. But the barrels that went into the small batch were selected by a group of veterans. And a lot of times on the tag, they'll even have the names of those that were involved selecting the barrels that ultimately went into this blend. And I think this is a really cool thing that Heaven Hill does. You know, they began this back in 2015, and they have gone on to honor dozens upon dozens of veterans every single year and raised quite a bit of money, the proceeds of which go to nonprofits that support veteran communities. And really for this one has to come on the list first here because you're essentially combining the history of bourbon. The 1783 part of it is to celebrate Evan Williams as the first distillery in the United States on those years, the bourbon itself, and the American heroes. But yeah, go out on the shelf, see if you can find the 250th version of this. It's like $20. Perfect pour for the 4th of July. And something that you're not being afraid of mixing all day with Coke all day too. So use it as a mixer. Sip on it, do what you want with it. Number 4. All right, this one's going to be a little bit of a change up and a dark horse, honestly. But I've got a few people that I'm going to be hanging out with over the weekend. I'm curious what they think of this one. It's the first time that I've talked about this on the channel, but this is the New Riff Duet American Whiskey, a collaboration between New Riff and Rheingeist. And if you aren't familiar, Rheingeist is a brewery in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the OTR area. I have not been a big fan of New Riff's American single malts to date. I got to try this one in a flight, and it impressed me enough to get a bottle, and I've been returning to it ever since here. So just to read a little bit off the back here, because this one might be one that people aren't aware of. Duet brings together two greater Cincinnati favorites to create a unique American whiskey that celebrates shared passion and craft. Featuring two types of barley, we're going to get more specific there in a moment. A key grain in brewing, this barrel proof blend spotlights and shares roots of beer and whiskey. After aging for at least 6 years in a variety of cask types, New Riff and Rheingeist selected standout barrels that were then married together and further aged in Rheingeist, creating a spirit that reflects the character of both Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. So technically, this isn't labeled as an American single malt, it's labeled as an American whiskey. And that's because the mash bill on this one is 57% malted barley, 37% raw barley, which gets in those two barley types I was talking about on that back label, 6% rye. And this one is 111.2 proof and, as mentioned, at least 6 years old. And I bought this at the distillery for about $80. And it keeps popping up on the distillery. It kind of like sells out, pops up again. So keep an eye on it, particularly if you're in the area. Now, for me, and it might be all about those different cask types that they talked about on that back label too, but I love the fruits that are coming from this thing. I mean, you're getting every berry, you're getting this blast of sherry, orchard fruit, tangerines, a little bit of melon. Essentially, a giant fruit bowl, which again, something I'm going to be enjoying on the 4th of July. And I kind of wanted one bottle that just kind of encapsulated the current vibe in the country, I feel like. It's not a bourbon, it's not an American single malt. It's just kind of doing its own thing and riffing off its own tradition. Cheap plug for New Riff there. But a barley forward American whiskey with a little rye in it, in collaboration with a brewery, feels both traditional and funky all at the same time. Number 3. All right, this is where I get to go cheap plug all the way. Typically don't do this on our list, but this is such a funky list anyway. Hey, man, fair game. And as I said off the top of this, I'm going to be honest, and this is what I'm actually going to be drinking. But shout out to all of our amazing Patreon community out there that has supported the channel week in, week out for years and have enabled us to go around the country picking single barrels. And one of the things I will be doing on the 4th of July is sharing a lot of the barrels that we have found for this community with my family and friends as we celebrate. And one I know that we're going to continue to crush here is going to be our latest barrel pick. This one is a Bull Run 18-year American whiskey. Now, this is light whiskey, and I'll clarify that for those that don't know in just a minute, but that's totally different than what we just went through on the duet. But this was finished for 44 months in a Pinot Noir cask. And we call this one Bulls on Parade, and it's a collaboration pick with Dusty Dan, Baker Drinks, Drifting Drams, and Big Vic. Now, this one is currently available over on Shared Pour. So if you're watching this, if you go onto Shared Pour and you were to search Bull Run, you would find Bulls on Parade quite easily. 18 years, $89.99 on Shared Pour. Actually, let me have a little sip of this as we're going here. This is actually my 4th bottle of this in 2 weeks. Not all by me, but I have continued to share it with family and friends. Man, it has been the crowd pleaser. A lot of the times when I'm sharing, like, people get used to my vibe, right? Like, I'm bringing my whiskey backpacks. I might have 12 bottles with me. So it's like, drink a little bit of everything. This is one they keep going back to, getting that second pour up. But this is an American light whiskey coming from Bull Run. Now, Bull Run is located in Portland, Oregon, where they began the brand, 16 years ago at this point. Now, when it comes to light whiskeys, the light doesn't stand for it being like lower alcohol or anything. This one's 125 proof. It's actually due to the color itself. Typically being aged in used barrels also can go into the barrel at a higher proof than what we can do with bourbons. The color on these is typically a lighter caramel color because of those used casks. Now, that is, of course, not the case on this one because of those 44 months in those Pinot Noir casks. This got quite a bit of oak influence and char influence on this, which is actually kind of abnormal for light whiskeys. This one actually has quite a bit more depth than the category typically provides. Now, the mash bill on these two is just predominantly corn. I mean, we're talking about like 95, 96%, 99% corn, with the other percentage being malted barley. And it is mostly made by MGP in Indiana and thus sourced around, though I have seen other brands more recently, such as Larrikin, also offering a light whiskey bottling. But I like highlighting these. I am going to be drinking a lot of the picks that we've come out with recently. But with this one in particular, it also becomes a celebration of the entire country now. I mean, we're going from Kentucky all the way to Portland, Oregon, to celebrate all corners of the country. And then, of course, the other angle is going to be the grain. with that predominance of corn. I mean, essentially, this is a corn whiskey. And what's more American than that? All right, cheers, everybody. We got this like storm coming in here. What a crazy day this has been. Cheers. Yep, never gets old. So as I said, this one's currently on shared pour. We're gonna have a bunch more picks coming out over the course of the summer. So if you are interested in our single barrels, highly suggest you either get into our Facebook group or our Patreon. Links in the description. All we're trying to do with this is get great whiskey into great people's hands. Man, I know quite a few of you now watching this have this bottle in your hands. Also, give us some tasting notes in the comments here. We got to set up a live Patreon private so we can talk about this a bit more. I am still continually blown away by the depth, oak, and char that this light whiskey has. Our friend OH said it best, man. He's like, this is not a light whiskey. So if you got preconceived notions of what a light whiskey is too, this one does not fit that. Number 2. All right, just 2 to go here. And in general, this is going to be the point in time where I'm saying pull out those bottles marked 250th. You know, either the 250th that are explicitly about celebrating the birthday of our nation, or last year there was a bunch of 250th in celebration of the Army as well. But let's pull out the ones that are labeled specifically for this occasion. And for me, I'm going to pull out this W.H. McBrayer. Honestly, I don't think this bottle is going to survive past the weekend once I start sharing it with family and friends. But this is W.H. McBrayer Kentucky Straight Bourbon Special Edition, also known as the Judge. This is a particular batch that was made for this point in time to celebrate the 4th of July. One attractive thing down here, and I'll get into this in a minute, is actually the proof. It's barrel proof at 105. That proof is a consequence of this having a lower entry proof into the barrel. But what's been interesting for me, and part of the reason why so much of this bottle is gone already, not all of my family and friends can get into like cast strength whiskey. Like, hey, first pour of the day, let's get into some hazmat. Like, that's not going to happen there. I got to be careful sometimes. I mean, going above 95 to 100 is outside of some people's comfort levels. But what I have found with this W.H. McBrayer is it essentially just pleases everybody because the mouthfeel and the flavors are quite crisp, especially this apple that goes on throughout the entire experience. But it's also extremely inviting, only being 105 proof, that it doesn't blow people out as well. And I think I've gotten some really good reactions from this bottle because of that. It's almost like I'm introducing people that typically can't go above, let's say, 100 proof, but now I'm showing them something that's like barrel strength at 105, and they're getting the mouthfeel, they're getting the length of the finish, they're getting these other parts of the experience that honestly don't really exist when you water whiskey down so far. This one is the most expensive on the list, but if you go to W.H. McBrayer's website, you can currently buy it. Costs about $100, and they ship to like most places too. So once again, not trying to show things that you can't get your hands on. Most of this list, maybe not that new riff, is very accessible. But yeah, for this release, we're looking at, I think, about 11 barrels that were blended, all ranging between the ages of like 5 to 7 years. The mash bill on this one is unique as well, beyond that low entry proof that we were talking about. 88% bloody butcher corn, 6% rye, 6% malted barley. And that's the mash bill that actually goes into all the different Judge releases. I don't have the other Judge here to show you, but typically it comes in a black bottle. Now, McBrayer and the McBrayer family history with this distillery goes all the way back to the middle of the 19th century. So the McBrayer name and whiskey has essentially been around for half the history or more. Oh gosh, be even more than that, of the 250th that we are celebrating for America. And this one is technically tailor-made for the holiday, as are some other brands, as mentioned off the top here. Hey, if you don't have this one, swap it out for like the Evan Williams if you're lucky enough to have that 250th. But it does feel like these distilleries have gone out of their way to celebrate the 250th with some type of blend. And so far, I mean, these blends and releases are pretty much killing it. So at least it's just not a gimmick. And like one other funny detail on this one, I think as far as how many bottles they released to the public, it was 1776. So they really pushed it in for this release to say, hey, this is about the 250th. Number 1. All right. Number 1. This one's going to be a change up a little bit. I'm pretty sure this isn't going to be the expected number 1 here, but I think it really fits well, and I'm excited to explore these bottles more over the course of the week. It's actually the first time I've ever owned anything myself from this brand, even though I have had many good samples over the last year. But the number 1 I'm getting into here is Old Glory coming out of Tennessee. I mean, look at these red, white, and blue colors. Looks tailor-made for the 4th of July. These are 2 picks from the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club. I do believe these picks have sold out. But as I said, this is the first time I've gotten my hands on Old Glory. I could have gotten some other single barrels here recently. I was just waiting to see what Jason and Scott had up their sleeves. But good whiskey friends like Adam Shelton have also hooked me up with lots of samples over the last year. I even did a whole feature on this brand just a couple months ago as I ran through a whole slew of samples. But there are 2 bottles here, and I'll go through the differences. We got a Tennessee bourbon, this pick coming in 127 proof, a little over 6 years, but then also a sweet mash Tennessee whiskey. Now, I continually seem to gravitate towards the Tennessee whiskey anytime I get to compare these. Did the same with these 2 single barrels that I got in my hands. The mash bill on the Tennessee whiskey is 73% corn, 19% wheat, 8% malted barley. So this is a wheated bourbon, though it did go through the Lincoln County process and thus is a Tennessee whiskey. But even though it's wheated, man, it's got spice for days on that, man. I still have a hard time when I get this thing blind to call it a wheated bourbon or wheated Tennessee whiskey. The Tennessee bourbon, by comparison, very similar proportions, but the 73% corn is then followed by 19% rye and then 8% malted barley. And again, as we highlight these brands, I do want to get things that can get into your hands. You can go onto Old Glory's website and even look at these and potentially order some of them. As an example, there is a Tennessee whiskey single barrel that they will ship to you in most states for like $85. So you can just go on the website and grab these, by the way. If you haven't heard of Old Glory before, you're just like, that one's not in my area. I mean, more and more, it does seem like we can go direct through these distilleries, which is fabulous because it takes care of that whole, oh, this isn't available in my place. Like you're talking about all these brands that aren't available to me. Man, just go and use your fingers there and click on the buy button and go get a bottle shipped to your door. But, to highlight this one, number one, I'm trying to stretch beyond just the patriotic branding that I showed you on these labels. I mean, this is a young Tennessee distillery coming out of Clarksville, Tennessee, not trying to bring up some heritage. They didn't find a recipe in an attic. Like, no. We're just doing it for the love of doing it. And we're just going to do it all on site. So talk about living out the American dream there. So I just love the idea as we celebrate the birthday of America this 4th of July to also look ahead at our future and some of these young whiskey makers entering the game now and what they're going to be bringing to us for years to come. So let me know in the comments, what did you think about this list? Are you inspired to check any of these brands out? And what will you be drinking in your glass on the 4th of July to celebrate? So thank you for joining, whiskey friends. We'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching. Hello again, whiskey friends, everybody. A big shout out to our amazing Patreon community. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't continue to produce the content and barrel picks week after week. And for everybody else out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you know. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.